This is the ego coming through.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let me get some tea.
Uh-huh.
I can edit so that I have close up on you, close up on me. So this will be fine. Actually, this will work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But make it look like you're not making fun of me.
I can't right now. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Serious.
Can you can you tell us some more about that?
It's okay if you're laughing while you do it. Maybe it's fine. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna think of something sad.
Yeah, I went under the, Did that make sense to you? Like the kind of that whole image, because that's how it comes across to me. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was very
explaining
very
it
very much. Okay, I'm gonna do a transition here. Okay.
Sick puppies.
Oh. But could you tell us a little bit more about that? Let me do one more. It's okay.
And could you also do that where you said like I come from a like that's kind of.
Oh, it's similar to mine. I'll do a
Yeah.
couple of those.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, it is though.
Was I
actually.
speaking a little bit for you too then?
Oh, very much so.
Oh, good. Okay.
Very much so. That's why I'm not looking forward to mine. Okay. All right. Okay. No, I can completely relate to that. I had a very similar experience, similar kind of childhood in essence. And but tell us. Let me try it again. Take two.
Okay, keep working on
Right,
it.
wait.
Maybe you could sit here by yourself and do it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to? Okay, keep working on it.
Wait.
Maybe you could sit here by yourself and do it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to draw a little stick figure of me and I'll put it right here? And you
Yeah.
could be like
I'll get it.
when
I'll
you've
get it.
composed yourself.
Okay. 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 All right. Yep, I had exactly the same experience.
Maybe you could say, "Yeah, I know it." That.
Okay.
Maybe we should have made it funny. Maybe we should do it. No, we've done it.
Mine can be funny. Okay, welcome to How I Became a Theosophist, and I am very grateful and happy to be presenting my new friend as my special guest today, Rozi Ulich. And let's just jump right in, Rozi.
Okay, yeah.
Please tell us where you're from
Mm-hmm.
and what you do there as far as your Theosophical Association there.
Okay.
It didn't make a lot of sense, but I think you know what
Right.
I'm asking.
So I'm not from there, but I currently live in D.C.
Okay.
I live in Washington, D.C. And I am a member and the president of the Washington, D.C. Lodge.
And you're the president of the Washington,
am,
D.C.
yes.
Lodge. And can you tell us how you ended up at the Theosophical Society? That is, how you became a student of Theosophy and now you're the president of a lodge.
Mm-hmm.
How did that start?
Okay. Well, I'm fairly new to the Theosophical Society.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
I joined about 5 years ago. So I'm not one of these wonderful people who grew up in a theosophical family.
I am gonna put an asterisk, and she is one of the wonderful people.
I'm
Maybe
wonderful.
in this lifetime you didn't grow up in a traditional theosophical
Right.
family, but
Probably
you definitely
in the past. Yeah.
maybe
I
maybe.
feel like I'm a member of the theosophical family, but I didn't grow up in it.
No, I can completely relate to that. It's very similar. Well, you shouldn't laugh at me, but it is very similar to something that I experienced, suffering that in that horrible way.
Although I do feel like I've always been, in
Really?
this life, I've always been a theosophist. Theosophy has always been with me. It's always been like a current. I just didn't know that, I didn't know the label for it.
Right.
I had never heard of the Theosophical Society.
Right.
I grew up in a Catholic, in a
Okay.
Catholic family, in the Catholic tradition. And, there are a lot of people who have, who grew up Catholic who then turned completely away from it.
Oh yeah. No, I had a very similar experience in childhood. Yeah. Can you tell us more about your experience though?
In my own life, and with my family, there was, from a very young age, I was very aware of contradictions between, the theology that we learned, because I went to a Catholic school, Catholic grade school, and so there was always a conflict between what we learned in school and what we learned when we went to church every Sunday. We went to church every Sunday, and it's like practical applicability, especially in our family. And I was telling you, in our family, really, I would say our karma, or our big lesson, and this is something that's followed me throughout my entire life, is this whole concept of dealing with death. And I think that for all of us, that's that's one of the biggest challenges.
But could you tell us a little bit more?
And in the Catholic Church, in school, what we learned was, there are like 3 places you could go to, right? When you die, there are 3 places in the Catholic Church, right? You can go to heaven, and no one goes there, right? Maybe the Pope,
A few people.
a couple saints,
Right.
And I wasn't going there, right? And then, there was like purgatory, and when we were young, I had a brother and 2 sisters growing up, and when we were very young, our mother died of cancer, and I remember being told that, we should pray for her because she was in purgatory. And from what I understood, purgatory wasn't a very pleasant place to be, and I could never understand why or how my prayer could possibly free her from purgatory, especially since, you don't get out of purgatory until the world ends. So none of this made any sense to me. And for me, I knew already at a very young age that I was going to hell, because my grandmother was very devout Catholic, and I remember she had lots of pamphlets, and I found a pamphlet about sins. And it was a pamphlet about the difference between a cardinal sin and a venial sin. And I don't remember which one is which, but I remember when I read this pamphlet, I realized, to my terror, that I had already committed like my allotment of like cardinal sins.
Laugh.
And I was like 7, right? I think
know.
you get 3. I think you get 3 cardinal sins, and then you're done. And by that time, I had already committed 3 of them. I mean, I remember breaking out into this cold sweat and realizing, well, I'm going straight to hell. So it was over for me already.
And you were like 7 years old, right?
Right. Yeah. So that was scary.
So, but then, apparently you found a way somehow, even before you officially joined the Theosophical Society, to keep a connection to spirituality, or at least your interest in esoteric subjects.
Well, it was interesting because, I remember, I feel like I remember things from a very, very early age. And I feel as though because I can remember those things, my connection to, I don't know how you would say it, the side that is not the material was rather strong. And that always stayed with me. So what was the question?
Well, yeah. Well,
so that always stayed with me.
Yeah. You mentioned in conversations too that you felt like you were always a theosophist.
There was always
lifetime.
this undercurrent.
Yeah.
Going through life, I never really in my family learned, like how Vic says, the whole reason that we have the Golden Link College and the whole reason that we want to bring children up in a theosophical educational system is to teach them the very practical applicability of theosophy. I never had that. I barely received coping skills to get through life.
Yeah.
But there was always something in me that sort of an inner intrinsic drive for excellence, for honoring something deeper. And I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
There was always something there. And I feel like, as I was going through life, I didn't have very good coping skills, but at least, I knew not to do harm, and I knew that I knew.
So, and what was it about the actual Theosophical Society when about 5 years ago, when you started going to the meetings? Do you remember how you found out about it, or if there was a book, or do you remember your first meeting, or walking into the meeting place, any of that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll never forget that. And I think there are so many of us who. That's why I love this. I love to hear stories of how other people found the society. It was happenstance, I guess. I in my life, I went through a crisis period finally. I was kind of treading water, and then when I was in my mid-20s, my brother got sick, and he died from brain cancer. And it was another one of these cases where I really didn't have the skills, even in my mid-20s, to deal with that. And so all this time I had my head barely above water, and when my brother died, it was like the currents started dragging me down. And so in the conference, Sister Gabe Uline talks about in transformation there is this death that occurs, this death before dying. And for me, that was the beginning of a very slow death. It was like I started drowning, and it was a very slow drowning process. And one of my favorite quotes, I don't know if you've ever heard of, there's a philosopher named Vagerl, and he has a quote, it's always stuck with me, and it's in German, it's Wir sterben viele Tode, solange wir leben. Der letzte ist nicht der bitterste. And that means we die many deaths as long as we live. The last is not the most bitter. And I think Sister Gabe said that also. The death before dying. So that was my dying process. And it was a slow process. And then finally, my head kind of went under the water, under the waves, and someone threw me a lifeline, so to speak, and I went into therapy, and that sort of helped me in my practical life learn how to live. And around that same time, I studied German, and I was in a German book club, and my German teacher I think she was one of the few people who looked at me, and I could tell she knew there was something wrong with me, because I was very good at hiding that there was this turmoil going on. And I remember I was almost afraid of her because I could tell when she looked at me that she could see that there was something not right. And she was like my second lifeline, because she started giving me books, spiritual books in German. And it was especially books on esoteric psychology. And it was like, reading these books in German kind of suspended part of my brain, the critical part.
Yeah, yeah.
And this was all like a preparation for, I think, finding out about Theosophical Society, because I had never heard of it. And about 7 years ago, when I was starting to sort of kind of come back above the waves and actually tread water and swim a little, I went to a wedding. When I was in college, I worked for a family, and I took care of their 2 little girls. I was very close to this family. And the one daughter was getting married, and so I went to the wedding. And when I was at the wedding, I talked to this remarkable young woman. She was a cousin. And I asked her what she had studied in school. And she said, well, that she had studied science and comparative religion. And I was fascinated by this. And I had thought, I had told her, if I could do it over again, that's what I would have studied. And she said for her senior thesis, she had written a paper on this organization that back in the 1800s had brought esotericism to the Western world. And I had never heard of this organization. It really intrigued me. And I never found out the name from her, actually. So around the same time, it's kind of a long story.
It's fine. It's a great story.
Around the same time, I was spending time with a friend of mine. We went and got ice cream, and we just happened to start talking about experiences, otherworldly type experiences. And she told me that she had been in a Reiki class and had a sort of disturbing experience, and had talked to the Reiki master after the class, and he had told her in a past life she had worked with a group of people who helped others. And he told her, in this life, they're waiting for you to find them. And when she said that, there was something that, got me right here. It really resonated with me. And it made me feel almost homesick, and it made me feel like, I wish there was an organization out there of people like that who were looking for me and waiting for me to join them. So I forgot about it, and I'm reading these books that my teacher had given me, my German teacher, and eventually I reached a point where it was time for me to do something else. And so I made a list of organizations in DC. It was New Year's, and I made a list of organizations and meetings, metaphysical chapels and tarot societies, and there was one, Theosophical Society, and they were giving a lecture, and that was the first lecture that I went to. So I show up, didn't know anything about Theosophical Society. I sat down. I don't even remember the topic. I remember who the speaker was, Gwendolyn, in our group, and I realized that this was exactly what I had been looking for. It all resonated with me. It was already, everything that she said validated what I already knew. But it had just taken me a long time to get there. I felt like I really had to burn off a lot of I had to earn it. I had to burn off a lot of, I had to be burnished almost before I could find the society.
You know what? It really, and hearing you say that story, tell that story, it sounds like the story of a future Theosophical Society board member. So I bet you, in a few years.
I don't know about that.
You don't have to.
That's so funny. I do though feel like
it just in having talked to a few of the board members and having them sit, and for these interviews, it echoes very much with the same kind of purpose that their stories had. So now, especially you, of course, you're the president of the Washington D.C. Lodge.
Right.
And you're doing a project that I'm very excited about, and I'm really glad for, and that is the Healing Network for Animals. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah.
So we are starting a healing network for animals, and it's exciting because we're basing the network on the model of the human healing network that is coordinated by Diane Eisenberg here at National. And it's a beautiful, powerful ceremony that she and other groups across the nation do for humans. So you can submit a name, and they send healing meditation and healing thoughts to people. And sort of in acknowledgement of our animal brothers, we've started a complementary animal healing network. And it's kind of acknowledging, that important relationship, especially in today's world. So many people have pets, and pets who are really members of their family. Some people, their pet is the only thing that they have. And so when that pet gets sick, often people don't know how to deal with it in a spiritual way. They need support, and so we just wanted to open this opportunity for them.
And I really think it's great, because obviously our species has not always been so compassionate for animals. And you've designed this beautiful card. And if people want to have their animal put into this healing network, there's contact information for them. And we'll post that during this interview, if that's okay. And
we're also looking for meditators. So we're looking for, we're offering it to anybody who has an animal who might be sick or knows of animals that might be sick. We also do healing for, every month we do healing for a particular cause. So, factory farmed animals or...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great.
So we try to include that. But we're also looking for meditators. So if there's anyone out there where, this resonates with them and they would like to do the healing meditation, they can also contact us at the Gmail address, and we'll get them set up.
So people will sort of meditate from their homes at the same time that you all... Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be at the exact same time.
Right. Oh, okay.
And, if they can do it on a daily basis, that's wonderful. But, if they can only do it weekly, that's also great.
It sounds great.
And right now we have one person in India who is meditating with us. We just signed up the Hungarian contingent, so we're going global. But we can definitely use some more people here in the States, too.
So you've already established this. Okay. So how long have you had this?
It's only been a few months.
A few months. Okay. It sounds like it's going strong already.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to join it.
Good. Great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Oh wow.
This is a bit of a dumb question.
Yeah.
But can you tell? I know it's new, but can you tell us anything you've learned from establishing this network, already being involved in this work? Any feeling you've had or experience about this service work that you've got?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's real. This healing energy is real. When I first started doing the meditation for animals, I definitely felt the energy is different. And I only know because I was able to participate in the human healing meditation this week. And through contrast, what really comes across to me is this is real, and we're definitely working with we're working. The idea is that we're working with the Devic realm, the angelic realm. We're sending angelic healing energy and love to the animals and the humans. And for me, what's really been amazing is the difference in the energy, which to me kind of underscores the fact that there is something going on, and it's quite powerful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a bit of a different kind of question. So, what to you is the most important teaching that you take away from Theosophy?
I love the idea that in this moment right now, we can work on ourselves for future lives, and that we have that power. I think that's for me.
Is it okay if I ask a question that's not so serious right now?
Uh-huh.
Okay. If you were a superhero,
Right.
or if you had the
Superhuman abilities.
Superhuman abilities.
Right.
What would you want your let's say you were allowed to have one superpower.
Right,
What would you like to have?
Yeah. I already know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this. I personally would love to have the ability to be invisible. The power of invisibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
also with the ability to sort of walk through walls and doors.
Right.
If you can combine the two, I don't know if you can, but
I
if I had to pick one.
Yeah.
Right.
But invisibility.
That would be the primary. But I would also like the corollary strength of being able to move through the walls while invisible.
So you're asking for invisibility with an asterisk.
Yeah. Can I have that?
All I can do is make these little videos and hope for the best.
Uh-huh.
But as you do know, they do go out onto YouTube, which of course is part of the World Wide Web.
Right.
So many people more powerful than me will be watching this.
Yeah.
And if somebody sees this who is in a position to open some doors for you, can you promise us, or this person,
that I'll use it for good?
that you'll use it for good?
Well, that's why I'm here, right? That's why I've become involved in the TOS, is because these are things that I'm working on. I'm learning, to be of service and to only use my powers for good.
Okay.
As opposed to the past where,
Okay.
Okay.
I maybe you haven't thought this far ahead. Have you thought about any particular examples where that invisibility would be helping the Universal Brotherhood? Yeah.
Well,
We can come back. Yeah.
Oh.
You can email that
Why,
answer.
you don't think that I could come up with something on the fly?
Probably can.
Well, maybe I'm not going to share it then.
No, please do. I didn't mean to assume.
Mm-hmm. How can I help the
How would one use that power of invisibility? Are you familiar with the Harry Potter series?
Yeah.
Harry had the invisibility cloak.
Uh-huh.
And he used it for good.
Okay, yeah.
I
don't remember a specific
example.
example.
Exactly either. All I know is that it made him invisible.
I think we were talking about this before. Of course, I've always wanted the power of invisibility, and in the past I wanted it for nefarious purposes. But now, really, what I would love is the power of invisibility, so that I could go around the world, so that I could, in DC, for example, that I could go out into DC, to areas of DC where, I couldn't, as a female, step foot, even in broad daylight, without fear of, being attacked. And see how people there live and sort of observe what goes on, especially at night. I'd love to just travel around at night and observe people, and just, and I don't know how that helps humanity, but maybe because I want to understand. I want to understand people, and I want to understand the conditions that they live in, and just see them.
I think it sounds great. I think maybe
without them seeing me.
without them seeing you. I think that book by Leadbeater, Invisible
There's
Helpers,
some tips in there?
speaks very much to this. Maybe we can ship that book to you.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, add it to my pile.
Okay. Do you think the masters are still active in the Theosophical Society or in the world in general?
You didn't ask me if I believed that there are masters.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that there were masters that helped to start this society, for example?
Yeah. And I will echo what Fernando said in his talk this week, because I think he expressed it the best. It makes sense, you know, if we believe in the evolution of the I don't know all of the jargon yet, but the monad, right? If we believe that humans are evolving, not just physically but spiritually, then it makes sense that there are those who are even farther advanced than we are right now. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know, I've also from what Fernando said and from what, you know, we've had shared ourselves this week. Someone told us a story about their experience with the masters. That seems credible to me, and I'm listening from sort of an objective perspective, where when someone speaks about something like that, you know when someone is talking about something they've fantasized versus something that they've actually directly experienced.
Have you, especially since joining the society, had any experiences with where you think maybe you're being guided or helped?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Every time I turn around, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see, when I look back on my life, I know that I've been guided.
Yeah.
I've been protected without really being aware of it or knowing. Or maybe I did know, but was too busy, you know, struggling to keep my head above the water, that I couldn't acknowledge it. And sometimes that guidance came in the form of a person, or an animal. But especially being here at Olcott, at National, it's just amazing the magic that happens. It's like you enter a current, and you're sort of pointed in a direction that you feel like, yeah, I was meant to go this way, and it's not the personality that's sort of doing it. It's something deeper.
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm not making these decisions. It's something deeper. But it's a guidance, right? It's not, you know, I'm not being directed or anything. I don't know if that made any sense.
It made absolute sense. That you've had sort of guidance. Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it. I am. And I'm very open to it. I think you have to be very open to it.
Yeah. Well, you went through the, you lost some dross along the way.
I did. Yeah, I've been burnished. So I feel as though I kind of earned it.
Yeah.
And now I'm finally fit to be useful.
Yeah.
I guess that's what's important. It's like, you know, once you're fit to be useful, then the guidance especially comes, and you're led in the direction that you're hopefully going to make the most meaningful contribution.
Speaking of being fit to be useful, you're the president of your lodge in Washington, D.C., and you're starting this healing network for animals.
Right.
And then you're going to be back here in September.
Yep.
For what purpose?
For the Olcott Experience.
For the Olcott Experience, which is it's a program designed to further invite the participation of, I guess, people who the society feels are potentially outstanding new leaders. there should have been a question mark in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But
there should have been some kind of like application or interview process.
So just personally, not for the
Uh-huh.
whole society.
Right.
What would you like to do in the society? It's almost going against what you just said, I know, because you've talked about being guided and it's not like your own personality is doing it. But do you have any ideas about what you would like to do?
I want to do everything.
Wanna do
There's
everything?
so many things.
Mm-hmm.
I think now my focus is the service aspect because
Mm-hmm.
that's something I need to work on. I've always been so self-centered, not in a selfish way, but just because I've been so self-involved with my drama and stuff. And now that's, I think, that's hopefully been brushed aside a bit. And so the service, becoming more active in the TOS, and establishing the animal network, and exploring that avenue. Someday I imagine, though, like if I project myself into the future, I can see myself withdrawing and focusing more on study. I mean, I study now, but I would love to really focus on study.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know when that will be.
Perhaps you'll spend some time at Crotona or something for a longer program or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump a little bit back to your lodge.
Yeah.
So as president, can you tell us a little bit about what you do, about what happens at your meetings? Do you have is there a ceremony you do to open and close a meeting? How often do you meet? How does your meeting go? What do you do at your meetings?
Yeah. So we, the DC Lodge, during the year, we meet every week on Saturday, and we start off with a member study. And, our member study recently was the Secret Doctrine Symposium. We really enjoyed that. Of course, you could give us anything, and we could talk about it week after week. Give us a one-page, quote from HBB or Annie Besant, and the synergy in the group is just so dynamic that we could talk about it for weeks on end, in a productive way too, and then so after the member study, we always have a public program, and we'll bring speakers in, or the individual members will give a talk. And we always begin the public meeting with O Hidden Life by Annie Besant. And once a month we do a modified version of the healing meditation for the animals. And then in the summertime we're on a bit of a break, so we only meet every other week. So we're very busy.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like a very active group. So now this is the final question of this interview.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a pretentious question, I admit, but what would you like to see happen for the Theosophical Society as a whole in in the immediate future, and I mean like the next 10 years? What would be like an ideal, perfect scenario?
Mm-hmm.
It really is a pretty general question.
I would love the society to maintain this core. Here at Alcott, from what I've experienced, the society is really very well functioning with very, very, very special people. And Tim Boyd is a tremendous leader. I enjoy every month seeing his little update from the president. So that I would like to see continue. And of course, I'm not sure yet what happens at Crotona or at the other sort of satellites. But I have been to Pumpkin Hollow. I hope that those remain as spiritual centers. But we always talk about attracting new members, and for me that's kind of important in the sense that I want to attract those people who belong with us, the ones who are meant to become members of the Theosophical Society. And at the same time, I think it would be great to disseminate Theosophy to a wider audience to help people deal with issues like what happens when we get sick and die,
Yeah.
or what is our relationship with the animal kingdom, or what is our responsibility in our own development, or are we at the mercy of, the universe, or do we actually have a role to play in what happens to us? I think these are such important questions that people struggle with, and many of us are lost.
Yeah.
And if we could help clear away some of that fog, there'd be more people who would be, I think, really useful servants to humanity. That sounds, really. But yeah,
Very nice.
I'd like us to be a beacon in that way. Not necessarily that all of those people have to join the society, but that these ideas get disseminated to more people and bring people some comfort.
That's a great answer.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I
it's a
passed the
great
test?
answer. You passed the test. So you've come a long way since you told me that you narrowly escaped prison
Right.
when you led a rebellion. I think it was the third grade
Yeah.
Catholic
I was in
school.
fourth grade.
Fourth grade, you led
Yeah.
a class rebellion.
Miss
Had everybody
Cook.
drop their books or something,
Miss
right?
Cook, I am so sorry. She was one of my angels.
Yeah. And here you are
My
now.
teacher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really been a pleasure having you make fun of me these
Yeah.
past few days.
And I didn't even really
And,
get to make fun of you in
not
the
a
interview.
whole lot.
But stay tuned.
No, not in the interview.
Stay
Oh,
tuned.
yeah, that's true.
Because,
Part 2.
Oh, let's not give it away.
Should we?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I want a surprise.
Okay. All right. So there is a part 2, but we won't say what it is. And I look forward to part 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello to the Washington, D.C. Lodge.